We're seeing so much more autoimmune disease
Yeah.
because our immune systems are taxed by a lot of things, and our immune systems don't know how to function, and they upregulate, they over respond. So they keep producing. That's what that test is looking at.
Well, hi everyone, and welcome into this educational webinar. I have the wonderful Dr. Elizabeth Yurth from the Boulder Longevity Institute with us today, who has been a scientific advisor for us. My name is Lisa Tamati, and we're going to be talking today about immunosenescence, about the aging of the immune system, and a formulation, Rejuvenate Pro, and how this tackles some of the problems that we have with the aging of the immune system. So welcome in, Elizabeth. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for joining us today. Really
Thanks,
excited.
Lisa. You know, I always love talking to you and your brilliance, but I'm really eager about this product, so I'm thrilled to actually be able to talk, share some information with you. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for your guidance along the last few years as I've tried to put together a formulation. So I came to you a couple of years ago and we were looking at, I was looking at on the market and trying to find something for my aging mum. So if anybody
Right.
knows me, I have a mum with a very, very, very complicated medical history, and Dr. Yurth is actually her physician. And so we were talking about mum and what we could do actually. And that's where it all started with mum.
It is always personal passions are always the best, right? When you have a personal passion for something, yeah. And I will say, from the physician perspective, right? Lisa's mom is tough, right? She has cancer, she has chronic infections, she's frail, she's every hard thing to deal with that we've been dealing with, and honestly, this is the kudos to Lisa, but she keeps looking for answers, and it's continued to move things forward. I mean, she's actually
10
continually
years.
improving in her health instead of declining. We
Yep.
have little hurdles along the way, but overall, if we look at 1 year to the next, things are getting better,
Exactly.
which
And she's
doesn't
now
usually happen when you're 83 with B-cell lymphoma cancer in your brain, and you're right.
yeah, exactly. And aneurysms and strokes and everything in between, sepsis, so
Right.
on, hip fractures, everything that
GI
needs to
bleeds,
knock
right?
you off. Yeah,
Right.
GI bleeds. Yeah, you name it. So, and in my desperate search, I was trying to help her immune system because you'd always taught me, as one of my teachers, that the immune system is absolutely fundamental to the aging process. And when the immune system starts to go awry, which is immunosenescence, do you want to define what immunosenescence is and what actually happens there?
Right. Honestly, I think this is kind of neglected a little bit in longevity medicine. But when we look at where everything begins, our ability to fight off cancer, our ability to survive an infection, because you're going to get infections, you're going to get exposed to flu viruses and COVID viruses and every other virus that comes along in the future, and there's going to be more. We have to be able to fight them off. We also remember that our immune system is the surveillance for cancer, because the first thing that kills off cancer cells is natural killer cells, which come from our white cells. And so if we don't have healthy immune systems, that's why as we get older, we don't fight infections and we die of an infection, or we don't fight cancer and cancer is able to take over. So the main player there is our macrophages. And macrophages are these white blood cells that play a really critical role. And there's kind of two types of macrophages, what we call M1 macrophages. Those are activated, kind of bad macrophages. We need them, but they shouldn't stay around. And then we have the M2, which are these healthy macrophages that are doing their jobs. And what we know is as we age, we get more of these M1 macrophages, and we get less of these good M2 macrophages. So we have the inability to be able to tolerate stressors that come along. I know you recently met with Dr. David Furman. He
Yep.
runs what's called the Immunomes
Immunomes.
project out of Buck Institute. And they actually are so passionate that this is what we need to be following for aging, that they created a test that really looks at factors, cytokines, chemokines, proteins that really relate to the immune system. And they think that's a better marker of what your biologic age is truly than some of these other methylation tests and things that are out there. That the immune system, and actually we can directly look at the immune system. We don't have to indirectly look at it with methylation factors and things. We can actually directly look at the immune system. So we can look at the proteins that are produced by our immune system and say this is a healthy or unhealthy immune system. So they developed this test called the IH test to really look at that. So this is a group that studies aging. And they're so passionate that the immune system is the root cause that they developed this test to sort of show that. I will also, I was actually just this weekend, and I'm throwing this in because it was really cool to me. I didn't really think this way, but I was at this entire 3-day course on mitochondria, and it was incredible. Like you could spend 3 days on just mitochondria, and I took 100 pages of notes. But one of the things that I became aware of is that when our immune system is constantly being activated by something, right? Either, the viruses we're exposed to, the toxins we're exposed to, the stressors we're exposed to, the bad diets we're exposed to, that constant stimulation of the immune cells, one of the things that immune cells need is a whole lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually start taking all the ATP. So your brain needs ATP, your heart needs ATP, your muscles need ATP, but your immune cells need a lot as well. So if our immune systems aren't functioning well, we actually start shuttling all of that ATP to our immune system. So that now explains, right, why then secondarily what happens is now, because the immune system is creating all of this oxidative stress from all this ATP production, making these free radicals, finally the mitochondria go, hey, shut it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shut it down.
Yep.
Things have gone awry. Things are messed up. There's too much oxidative stress. Shut it down. And they stop making ATP. So what does that cause? Fatigue, sarcopenia, brain loss. So could this immune system upregulation be at the root cause of the mitochondrial loss that causes the heart, the brain, and the muscles to all become dysfunctional, right? That our overactive immune system, our overstimulated immune system causes that. So I think that we really are onto something here in this product that you guys developed, because I think it is really going to restore those factors that are going to help all that. And so I'm really eager about this. After learning this weekend, I'm like, oh my God, it was
Another
like a light
thing.
bulb clicked. I'm like, right?
Yeah.
That's why the mitochondria fails, because they're trying to keep up with this other stressor in the immune system. You forget that immune cells need ATP just like other cells, right?
Yep. And it's sort of suppressing, like we're constantly having to suppress the viruses, the Epstein-Barr,
Right.
the
Our body's
CMV,
always taxed with that.
Yep.
Constantly.
And so that's taking and draining what we're
It's
doing.
very draining, right? So think of all the insults you're exposed to. Most of us had mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus. So almost everybody, not everybody, almost everybody had Epstein-Barr. Well, Epstein-Barr doesn't ever go away. Our immune system keeps it in check, but it never goes away. Herpes virus is the same thing. Coronavirus, the same thing. These are all infections that are staying around, and our immune system is keeping them in check, right? It's kind of like birth control for these viruses, is that our immune system has they're not replicating. They're not gone, but they're not replicating, right? So that, and then you look at the environmental toxins, right? You can't get away from them. We can try really hard to live really clean lives, but these environmental toxins. So our immune system is really overwhelmed.
Yeah. And when I interviewed Dr. David Furman, coming back to the 1000 Immunomes Project, they've been doing, this is the largest longitudinal human immunology study in the world. And we're talking
it's
like
huge. They've been working on this project for years.
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah. So, and they have their own immunology center where they test everything. They've had over thousands of people go through this for 15 years. So they've got the biggest database, really. And they've identified a number of proteins, and we'll get into one of them particularly later, called CXCL9 and CXCL1, 2, and 3 as well.
Right. And I think the CXCL9 was one of the main ones, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the big players that they looked at as being probably the highest link, the highest marker to this dysfunctional immune system, this elevation in CXCL9, which, who learns about that, who tests it? Nobody. And so that was really, to me, key, because what can we do to address this high levels of CXCL9?
Yeah. And so we looked at that project, and we looked at the immunosenescence and the causing of the systemic chronic inflammation is sort of a cog in the middle of the wheel that's causing all of these downstream age-related, diseases and problems that we have, whether it be obesity right through to cancers, is the systemic chronic inflammation, which increases over time. And so we started to put our heads together to search for things that could help with this immune system, and understanding that this immune system is affecting all of the 12 hallmarks of aging. So rather rather than which I was doing before, I was trying to tackle each of the hallmarks
Yes.
of aging, right? And throwing in
Which you see so many
supplements.
people, right? They're
Yeah.
they're like, I'm taking this supplement for this and this supplement this for this supplement this, and they're on 50 supplements, which sometimes is causing more harm than good. When if we were to target this one piece aggressively, these other things would fall into place.
That's exactly right. So coming down at the immune level rather than the whack-a-mole type of 12 things I've got to hit,
Right.
we're going to affect
Right. It makes so much
downstream.
sense. And yet it's not the way we're working in the longevity field so much, right?
No, not yet, and but it's coming. And so I came across through one of my colleagues, Peter Learkey, who is co-founder with us at Avon Labs, had contacts with Quantic, and Quantic have produced a product, an ingredient called immune defense proteins, which is a suite of 50 bioactive whey proteins from New Zealand cows, and these can they have 40% lactoferrin, and if anybody knows about lactoferrin, the list of things that lactoferrin influences in the body and helps in the body is huge, right? And this has been studied for decades. But this IDP is 40% lactoferrin, it's 18% something called lactoperoxidase, and then there's a suite of 48 minor bioactive proteins. Now, it's the synergy of the 50 together that made it much more powerful than, say, lactoferrin alone, which we've been using for decades. And so they
Exactly.
started to do a lot of research, and Dr. Rod Clackham, who I've also done podcasts and interviews with, and he's been on our panel, so I'll put all the links over for you guys so that you can watch all of that as well. This was the ingredient that we just went, wow, this is what we are looking for our immune formulation. And so this was the very first thing that we put in and decided to add. Betsy, can you explain what immune defense proteins do, and what are some of the benefits of, say, lactoferrin and the lactoperoxidase and that whole suite, that synergistic suite, and knowing that this was developed, if you like, just taking it one step further, this was evolved in the cow to protect the mother from infection and inflammation. So let's start there. It protects the cow from inflammation and infection. And when we take this product, it does similar things.
Right. Yeah, you have to imagine that these cows have this dirty little calf nursing on their udder all the time, and so these infections could get very easily transferred to them. So something has to actually not just supply the baby cow, but also protect the mother. And it's one of the things they found IDP did, is this immune defense protein.